everybody. It's very bright out today, but kind of cold, but a lot warmer than it's been, if that makes any sense. So it's tag wagon day again. Yay! Usually we do tags on Tuesdays, but this one was going around, and I was tagged by Reading from the Depths. So hello, thank you for tagging me. Go over and check out his channel. It's really interesting. He's a Buddhist monk. He gives a very interesting and esoteric look at not just the books and the narratives, but how it sort of filters through his studies as a Buddhist. And he is really an interesting YouTuber. So I'm glad he tagged me, because I don't think I've watched any of his videos before, and I will definitely be watching more. So but this is the Who Are You book tag. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. And look, I have the world's worst handwriting. I can barely read my own handwriting. So this is going to be interesting. All right. So as far as the tag goes, the questions. Question number 1, who are you? My channel is Allegories Horror Stories, and Ella's, of course, not my real name. My real name's out there. Whatever. I use it sometimes I don't. I think I might have even said it on this channel once or twice. I started the channel under my name, but then I was thinking about branding and about, the possibility of making a logo and doing all that interesting stuff that the channels that I follow do. So that's why I thought it was more interesting to have sort of a brand. And I came up with Allegories Horror Stories because, it's got a nice kind of rhyming rhythm to it. And it's a shout out to Edward Gorey, who's one of my favorites, obviously. And also it's a play on allegory, and it's a triple bonus. It's a play on the title Aurora Gorey Alice by Letters to Cleo, who was a Boston-based band back in the 90s. It's so 90s. I think they're one of their biggest, Letters to Cleo's biggest claim to fame was one of their songs was used on an episode of Melrose Place. So can't get any more 90s than that. But as for who I am, not really anybody. I used to want to be a writer, and I thought maybe going into journalism was a good idea. Because in the early 90s when I started school, there was a program. If you got a degree, you could then do 2 years and get a second degree in journalism at the school Ryerson, or you could do 4 full years at Ryerson. When I didn't get into that program, I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. So I ended up going to Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, and after all that, I figured out I hated print journalism, but I really loved broadcast. Unfortunately, got a face for radio, so I spent 15 years volunteering for the student radio station there. Obviously, once I graduated, I was no longer a student, but the community, it was college and community radio at the time. And my friend Martin and I did a radio show every night, or every Tuesday at midnight. And we just played music and talked about silly stuff and told a lot of jokes and talked dirty. And, it was a really good time. And I was very involved with the radio station. I spent 3 years on the board of directors. And, this is going to sound really strange, but the last year that I was there, this group of douche canoes decided that they didn't like what was happening with the radio station, and that the staff was somehow corrupt and was fraudulently spending students' money. Sound familiar? So they came in, they fired all the staff. Sound familiar? Spent a huge campaign just slagging and convincing students that, no, you don't want this. No, it's just a waste of your $2.50 a term, $2.50 a term. Your $5 is just going to all this horrible stuff. And yeah, and the radio station ended up closing down. Not entirely. We were able to move to another location. We had a little bit of money put away because we had been saving for a new transmitter. It eventually did survive because the board of directors, I looked into having a membership fee, a monthly fee that the programmers paid, so it sort of became self-funded. And of course, the young white male who was the president at the time got the credit for my solution, but that's okay. I'm not bitter about it. But the whole thing was such a lead up to exactly what they're doing in politics in the US right now. And if you want to take down an organization, that's how you do it. And it's crazy to see it on a global scale now. Just saying. Anyway, a little bit off topic. So I spent 15 years being involved with radio, talking in a mic, doing some interviews, having special guests, having that back and forth with my friend that we developed this whole show. And I guess I was out of it for a long time, and I missed it. 10 years later, I was like, I kind of miss it. And YouTube was a thing, and so I just decided to start a YouTube channel. Now, I could have done something else. I could have become a wall cow or something and maybe even made some money at it, but I figured I like horror, I like books, I like talking about books, I like writing, I like the process, so why not start something that's geared towards that? So that's really kind of how I ended up on YouTube, which leads to the next question is, how long have you been on YouTube? I've been on YouTube about 5 years. You wouldn't know it from my numbers. I don't seem to be able to crack the 200 subscriber mark, so, but that's okay. And my earliest videos were actually sort of a means to promote anthology that I had edited called Not Just a Pretty Face, Women of Horror. Optimistically Volume 1, but we never did manage Volume 2. That was a whole saga as well. The first, we got a bunch of submissions, and then the publisher was these two people, and half of the publishing team just sort of disappeared and ghosted everybody. So I was reading Slush, and I started hearing from the authors, like, what's going on? And the other half of the publisher was like, well, let's just put out a sampler with these 10 stories, because these were the ones that were already paid for. So I had just gotten my tax return. I was like, okay, I will pay the authors what was promised. Just, if you have any sales, try to pay me back if you can. Of course, I never got a penny of it, but whatever. I wasn't expecting it. So I put my own money into it, finished it, paid a good friend of mine who is an excellent book formatter to put it all together, and then handed it over to the publisher and said, here, put it out. And it's unfortunate that it happened that way, because there's some excellent stories in it. Wonderful writers, including Haley Piper and Joe Kaplan and Caitlin Marceau, and those are just the ones I remember. So, who have, in the last few years, have published a lot more really, really good stuff. So, it is still out there floating around. But anyway, so the initial videos that I put on here were interviews with some of the authors who were on the roster, and that was a lot of fun. Okay, anyway, blah blah blah. What kind of books What kind of books do you like, and has BookTube had an effect on your reading? So I read I read a lot of different kinds of books, but I do tend towards horror, crime, not so much full-on mysteries, but I like stories about families, and I like stories where the central conceit, I guess is the word I'm looking for, it is a problem to be solved, whether it's a puzzle, a mystery, a crime, something happened and people have to kind of get together to figure it out. That really is sort of the basis of most of the stories that I like the best. I'm not a big fan of high fantasy or sci-fi or anything that's too much in the way of world building. I do prefer something that's sort of grounded in realism, if not full objective reality, because an unreliable narrator is far more interesting than, and that question, is this actually happening, is this supernatural, is this that's far more interesting than just straight up documentary realism. Has BookTube had an effect on your reading? I find that I do tend to keep track more of what I'm reading, or at least try to. And my TBR list gets longer and longer every time I watch a video of somebody presenting the books that they've read. And I also, one of the things that I've done since I started was try to look at, there's your, obviously there's your straight white Christian male author, Stephen King types of work. But I've always consciously tried to seek out more marginalized writers, more interesting writers, independent writers, with, I guess, what am I, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I'm trying to say here. I've always tried to seek out writers that may not have so much attention. Not that obviously I'm going to get, tons and tons of accolades, but at least I try to seek out books that aren't the bestseller list, that aren't, everybody else on YouTube is doing it. And I have discovered a lot of really interesting stories through having that goal when I'm making a video about a book I've read, if that makes sense. But I do find that because I'm always kind of thinking about what I'm going to be reporting on for my channel, there is always this feeling that I am not reading enough, I'm not reading fast enough, I'm not getting content out enough, and that becomes frustrating because lately I haven't been able to read as much as I would like, just because I don't have any concentration. I've always got a lot of noise in the background. You have 3 adults crammed together in one room. It gets really, really uncomfortable. What do you enjoy about BookTube? I really, really like that there's just a community of people who like talking about books, and there isn't all the drama that that you find on other YouTube communities. I spend an embarrassing amount of time watching lolcow type content, and there's a ton of drama. It's like middle school over there, whereas over here maybe we'll get in our little tiffs, but most of us just don't really care. So what do I enjoy about BookTube is definitely the community, and just being able to read the comments, and when somebody says, oh, I haven't read that yet, about a book that I've read, it's like, oh, you're in for a treat. Oh, I wish I could read it again for the first time. That kind of camaraderie is there. What do you not enjoy? I wish I were better at editing. But other than that, and again, there's just that little bit of pressure that comes more from my environment than from YouTube itself. What video are you most proud of? I think I'm going to say just the videos where I did more of where I tried to do more of a deeper dive into thematic elements, or a little bit more research than just getting on and saying, this is what the book was about, this is how I felt about it, this is what I liked, this is what I didn't like. So I'm going to say I did a little bit of just research about where some of the real life inspiration for Stephen King's It came from. And maybe other people found it boring, but I found it interesting. The research of it, and how it's always fascinating to look into the history of a place. And in Stephen King's world, Derry is a fictionalized version of Bangor, Maine. And Bangor, Maine is a relatively small city in a relatively lower populated state. But it's got tremendous history. And I've learned that every city has that. Every city has stories and neighborhoods and people who have created these stories. And it's given me an interest in, kind of what's underneath the concrete and and big box stores, and all the blandness that's there now. And I really enjoyed looking into the different things that were referenced in it that have a real life inspiration. I think there were a couple of other longer videos that I did that where I did sort of a deeper look. I know The Whale was one, because that was more of a comparison between the play and the film, and the themes of addiction. That was, I wouldn't say necessarily proud of it, but it was something that I was a little bit more conscientious of what I was saying. And there's a poetry book too. I really enjoyed reviewing that one. Okay. Anything you wish was different about YouTube or about BookTube? I wish I had the following to be monetized, and then I could actually, live and do this. And I do wish I was better at editing. My skills are just not good. 3 books that you've reviewed that represent you as a reader. That one's really tough. I'm gonna say I may not get to 3. I'm gonna say Beloved by Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison is probably top 10, if not top 5, of my all-time favorite authors. The Bluest Eye is one of my all-time favorite books. But Beloved it's not just a good novel and an important novel. It's a novel that speaks to so much of history and where it came from, and the really frustrating relationship that Americans have, both to their own past and to each other. And it's sad and it's beautiful, and it's it's one of those books that even if you don't have any of that experience, it resonates because it is such a good book. Second book, I'm gonna say The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And again, the characters really resonate. The experience of generational poverty, racism, addiction, the Native experience. Now, I'm not fully Native myself, but I do have some Métis ancestry, and always that feeling of not quite belonging in one place or another. I mean, obviously, it's much, much worse for somebody who is fully Native, but the yeah, I'm trying to explain why that book resonated so well with me. And I think and I think even if you're not Native, just the experience of poverty and addiction that leads to the each character's inevitable but at the same time unfortunate death, and then just that specter of the past and having done something that is wrong or bad. It's one of those books that was just so well drawn and rough going, but still such a wonderful read at the same time. The third book that I've reviewed. Now this one's a little harder because I've reviewed so many books. I don't know. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go with the 3 books of the Jackie Collins Santangelo line. I love me some Jackie Collins. I love Garbagast. I love the trashy, best-selling, sleazy, celebrity, rich people doing naughty things books. And I believe the British call them bonk busters, which is a term that just cracks me up. So yeah, I'm going to say those books as well. Jackie Collins has been a lifelong. I always loved her work. R.I.P. Jackie Collins. We are really gonna miss you. So 2, well written but heavy theme books, and then a series that is just gravy. You can just eat it and read it so fast. And I still think, if there's any streaming services out there that want a property that would be fantastic, the Santangelo series would make an amazing show. Okay. 3 booktubers who inspire you. Ooh, I don't know if I can come up with 3, but I watch Criminale a lot. Michael K. Vaughan, Book Songs and Other Magic. What's his name? I'm really, really bad at this. Because I watch stuff as it comes up in my feed. It's, and the unfortunate fact of the YouTube algorithms is that the more you click on something, the more it'll show you something. And I click on a lot of dumb clickbait and drama channels, so I don't watch as much YouTube booktubers as I would like, and I'm really sorry about that. So hopefully this tag wagon will bring more stuff into my feed, and I'll be able to watch more booktubers. And I will definitely be watching more from Reading from the Depths. So I think now the last question is tag 3 booktubers who need the hype, and I'm so bad at this. I'm so sorry. I wish I even looked through my subscriptions and I saw a few. I saw Riley's Library. I'm not even sure if the Bookish Weirdo or the Bookubus or they're not even coming up in my algorithms anymore, so I'm not sure if they're even still doing stuff, because my algorithms have just been all over the place. So if you're watching this and you're a booktuber, please do this tag and just tag me so that I can go and watch you, and I will add you to my subscription list and I will start watching you and bump up the algorithm, okay? I'm sorry about that. I think that's about it. The other thing I got this week, okay, Yes, I'm trying to give up Amazon. Yes, I'm trying to give up American stuff, but I'm really, really excited about this. Out There Screaming. It's a collection of horror by Black authors, edited by Jordan Peele. So I am going to be starting this, and I will have a review at some point in the next few months, I'm sure. Definitely before the August. And some of the people that I follow on Facebook are in here, so I'm really excited to read some more of their work. And I guess that's about it. So if you, like, share, subscribe, comment, send me something so that I can go and follow you. And I hope you're reading lots of horror. Have a great day.